Hi everyone, Jesse here with eTrailer. Today we'll be taking a look at and I'll show you how to install the eTrailer custom fit base plate on our 2022 Chevrolet Equinox. There's going to be 5 main components to look into when setting up your vehicle to be flat towed, starting with the base plate. It's going to be our structural mounting point for which everything else connects vehicle to motorhome. And then we have our safety cables. These are here as a last resort in case of a catastrophic disconnect. Those will hold everything together and allow you to get safely to the side of the road. And we have our braking system. That's here to allow you to not only rely on the motorhome's brakes, but also the vehicle that you're towing's brakes to help you come to a stop. Then we have our diode wiring. That's going to keep you safe and legal out there on the road by sending a signal from the taillights in your motorhome to the taillights in the towed vehicle to allow people to know what you're doing. So that means your turn signals, your taillights, and your brake lights will work correctly. And then we have the tow bar, which is just the physical link between the two. It connects from the base plate to the hitch on the motorhome to keep everything together. Here's a closer look at our base plate installed on our vehicle, along with the removable arms to hook up to your tow bar. You also have a nice mounting point for your breakaway switch and your diode wiring or your 6-pole connector. There's also a spot for your airline in case you had an Air Force One, for example, and that was your braking system. There's a nice mounting point for that. But getting it unhooked is quite simple. Here, I'll get this safety cable out of the way, which this is also part of the base plate. And we'll pull our pin and clip out, slide our tow bar end out. Ours is brand new, so the paint's kind of sticky on us. And then, as I said, these arms are removable, so just another pin and clip, and then a quarter turn to pull that out. And then included with the base plate, so you don't have to worry about road debris getting inside there and making it harder to get your arm back in, is this plastic cap. Pop that in, and then really you have a nice, clean, almost factory look with your car. One thing worth mentioning when you're looking into getting your vehicle set up for flat tow is this base plate does sit pretty low. I mean, the Equinox is a pretty low car as far as what you're flat towing. So ours installed sat at 15 inches from the ground to the center of this pinhole here. And then our hitch on our motorhome was a little bit higher. It was 18.5. So that's one thing you want to look out for. You want to measure that, then compare it to where your base plate sits, because you might need a high-low adapter. You want those numbers to be as close together as possible. Kind of give it a range of 3 inches and then you're good, but check out what your numbers are and then look into if you need a high-low adapter like we did. And if you have any other questions or concerns about setting up your vehicle for flat tow or this base plate in particular, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to get you pointed in the right direction. And as for the installation with this base plate, it is quite a process, especially if you're installing other flat tow components. With the base plate itself, you will have to remove your front fascia and then do some drilling on the frame. So I'd understand if that's not something you're looking to do yourself. Feel free to check out our dealer locator. You can find someone local to you that would be happy to get this installed for you. If you are looking to see how this gets installed, then follow along and I'll walk you through the process. We'll start our installation up top here. We have 6 T15 screws to remove. Now in our wheel well area, we're going to have 5 T15 screws to remove. We'll get that last one out, and then we need to peel this wheel well liner out of our way so we can access a screw that's right here. So just get your fingers under it, kind of peel it back. And then that screw is tucked up right here. That's going to be a 7mm. So I'm going to sock it and get that taken off. On the underside of our vehicle, we have some 7mm bolts to remove. Now we have one more screw on both sides to remove. It's going to be behind this little flap here. It's another 7mm. Now we're ready to remove the fascia. It's a good idea to have an extra set of hands. I have Tom here to help me out. But what I like to start with first is this section here that kind of goes between the headlights. It's just held in by pushpin fasteners. But you have to make sure that you tape up your headlight just to make sure you don't damage. And then carefully work that clip. Those clips want to be pulled straight out, so it's kind of difficult to get into, but use two of these plastic trim tools to kind of hold it back and get that popped out. Now we'll go to the outside over here, and this should pull straight out. This first clip is pretty difficult. I already got the other side loose, so it came out pretty easy from there. Now we have a wiring harness to unplug. Pull back on that red locking tab, push in on the pin, and it should separate. Looks like it's held in here by a push pin, so we'll just pull that out. We have another plug down here. Push in on that tab. Get that unplugged. Now we can set our fascia aside. Next we need to remove our driver's side headlight. So there's going to be some 7mm bolts holding it in. There's one up here, one on the side here. There's another bolt tucked in here right above our horn. With that bolt removed, we just have to lift up on the back side here and slide it out. And make sure that we get everything unplugged. There's a plug kind of tucked down in here. It's got another red locking tab and a push pin. So there's that plug with that red locking tab that I slid back and pushed in on that. And then we'll have to disconnect this. Helps to have a tool like that to get those undone. Then we'll set our headlight aside. Now our washer fluid reservoir is in our way, so what we'll do instead of making a mess with fluid and having to figure out a way to refill it, we're just going to remove 3 of the 10mm fasteners. There's one there in the middle, one up here, and one down below. We're going to leave that top one up, but what we'll do is get some of this wiring loose so we can move this around. And I'll pull it out over the stud, and we'll rotate it up like this. And then I'll use a bungee strap to tie it up out of our way. Now what we need to do is trim up this air dam to make room for our crossbar to come through. Before we can cut the driver's side, we need to relocate this ambient air sensor. So it's just got some tabs. If you push in on them, it'll kind of release. And then we'll just work around all these Christmas tree fasteners and get it unhooked and out of our way. And I'll just tuck that up here for now. And then I already have it marked. I'm just kind of going off a straight line where this angle is and right below that hole there. And for this, I'm just going to use some tin snips. Cut it out. Then I'll just kind of work this plastic back and forth until it breaks. Once you have this side cut out, we'll do a similar cut on the other side. Now for this step, the instructions will explain to you how to do it a little bit differently by using a series of clamps on both sides to hold everything up, but I'm going to do it a little bit different. What we'll do is start by removing these 4 13mm bolts holding our bumper beam in. And you're going to have to do all this anyways, so I think it'll make it easier to hold our base plate in place while we drill our holes. That last one out. Then we'll take our bracket, which are labeled, however, mine were labeled incorrectly, so just kind of make sure that you have it so that your 4 holes line up with that bend in the bracket going that way. And what we'll do is sandwich this between our bumper beam and our frame. Which ours is kind of stuck, so I may have to take a pry bar and get it popped out. So I just lightly pried on it with a pry bar and it broke whatever was holding us up loose. Now we'll get our bracket slid in. Then I'm going to thread on one of the bolts, because what we'll do is pivot this out while we get our base plate into place and then pivot it back down. Now it's a good idea to have an extra set of hands so that we can work this base plate into place. My friend Daniel is going to help me out. So as I said, we brought those brackets out. And then what we want to do is line up with this pinch weld on our frame here. So make sure you line up with your slots that you cut out. Get that pushed into place. Drop your bracket down. And then we will slide one of our bigger bolts out of our kit through the 2 holes here. That slid through. And then we'll thread on one of the nuts, just hand tight for now. So getting this base plate pushed back and up as far as you want it is pretty difficult. I ended up taking that side bracket off, but it was nice to have just to kind of hold us into position while I pushed it. And I'm using a pole jack, so if you're working on the ground, you could use a floor jack. I just wanted that to keep it as high up as possible as I pushed back. And then I used a pair of vice grips and a clamp. But I got it pushed into position here, so I'll start drilling our holes. We're going to drill these top 3, then this one here, and that bottom one there. And those are going to be 3/8. So get your 3/8 drill bit and start drilling. Another thing is, behind this is some electrical wiring, so I just jammed a license plate up there. That way it'll stop my drill bit from damaging anything. So I got 2 of our holes drilled out, and what I'll do now is insert some hardware into it, just because I will have to remove this vice grip to drill our next hole. And all of our hardware today that we're installing, we'll get some blue thread locker that is included, and we'll just slide our bolt through the hole there, and slide the other bolt through, and then we'll thread some of our lock nuts on the back. Once you have all of your holes drilled, install all of your hardware for that, get your side bracket reinstalled, and then for now we're going to leave everything loose. We're going to repeat all those processes on the other side, and then we'll tighten everything down. So we'll tighten down our side bracket hardware with a 19mm socket and wrench. Next, we'll tighten down our smaller base plate hardware with a 14mm socket and wrench. Now we'll tighten our factory bumper bolts with that same 13mm socket we used to remove them. Now we'll take our torque wrench and torque everything down to the specifications in the instructions. Next, we'll install our permanent safety cables. These are just here in case of a catastrophic disconnect to hold everything together. And what we want with this is to wrap it around a sturdy part of the vehicle and then connect it using our quick link right here. So I'll just slide that quick link into place. I'm going to wrap around up above our subframe and then around our frame. You will want to watch out for this wire harness. I'm going to go under it. And since we have a bit of slack, since this is so close, I'm going to go around twice. It's also going to add some extra security. So get that wrapped around, then get both ends into your quick link. And tighten it down. Get that tightened down, and then I will also add a zip tie or something just to keep this from clanking around. For installing the 6-pole bracket, it actually comes with some pre-drilled holes that will match up to your safety cable loops. You have a matching pair on both sides, so depending on where your wiring is on your motorhome, you can decide it. But I'll get that installed with the factory hardware, or the hardware that came with it, the split washer, nut, and bolts. And at this point, it's a good idea to set up any of your other flat toe components like your braking system or your diodes. That's what I'm going to do now. So we'll get that set up, and then we will have to come back and do some cutting with the fascia. So when I get to that point, I'll show you what we did. Dry fit the fascia. I just put a couple screws to hold it into the top because we will have to trim, as I said. And I just do it this way because I want to cut as little as possible. So what I'll do is kind of marked out about the smallest cut I think I should have to make, and then we'll see how that fits. If I need to cut more, then I'll come back and cut more. And to make these cuts, I'm just using a multi-tool. So here's what our cuts look like. As you can see, I had to cut quite a big chunk out over here just because of our 6-pole wiring and our breakaway switch, and a small section here. And then if your vehicle has a license plate with the mount on it and everything, that actually hangs down right here over our 6-pole and our breakaway switch. So what I did was I took it off, and then I used a razor blade. It cuts pretty easy. There's a little notch here. I cut that out, and I rotated the holder 180 degrees to bring it up a bit. And that should stay out of the view of our front view camera and all that, but give us room to access our 6-pole and breakaway. Once everything's put back together, that's going to do it for our look at and installation of the eTrailer custom fit base plate on our 2022 Chevrolet Equinox.